morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whenever you are. Welcome to the Asian Highway. This is AH1 Presents the Asian Highway Storytellers in Action. This is your host, Pimo, along with Debesh and Meda. We're coming to you from Visual Communications in Little Tokyo. And we are recording today on Chinese New Year. So happy Chinese New Year to everybody out there in podcast land and the world. Wishing you all the best for an upcoming great year. Hey, Debesh, how you doing?
Good. How's everybody doing in podcast land? I'm glad that you're here with us. We have a very exciting show today. We're looking forward to speaking with our guest, and we're very happy to be speaking. Meda, how's your day going? How's your week?
You know, I didn't mean to get excited about Chinese New Year, but I ended up becoming excited about Chinese New Year because I went to get waxed today.
Uh-oh.
And my waxing lady, the moment I stepped into the room, said, "It's Chinese New Year." And she was very excited about it. Apparently, a lot of her fellow countrymen, she was Vietnamese, go back home during this period of time. And the way she explained it to me, she said, "You know, we worship a god. It's the same like you Indians. We worship Buddha too, your god." And I was like, "Oh, okay," as she did her business. But I thought it was very interesting that she was excited about Chinese New Year. And she explained to me that a lot of nail salons and waxing places shut down during this period of time because it's such a relevant holiday for Asian Americans who celebrate Chinese New Year. So,
Wow.
I did want to say something. I know with it being Year of the Dog, something interesting that I had found, in terms of different things that bring upon with the Year of the Dog. There was some little excerpt that I found that I'll read to you. Basically, being the Year of the Dog, it says dogs must try to interact well with others. Remember to defend, but not attack. And I think that very much coincides with part of our mission here in terms of, as you had really nicely stated in a previous show, Parimol, about having a seat at the table and being able to listen and not just having everyone talk and attack and whatnot.
Right. No, I 100% agree. And that's a great transition into our guest we have on today. He's Skyping in from Northern California, from the Sacramento area. His name is, we know him as Tron. He's also got a DJ handle, which I'll have him introduce when we have him on in a second. He's representing the Vietnam portion of Asia today. And so let's bring on Tron. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us. So, tell us, you're a DJ.
I am a DJ.
Okay. And what's your name? What's your DJ title? And what kind of music do you do?
My name is Tron. I also go by Tokio Rocks, and I do primarily dance music. But for a couple of friends and stuff, I'll do weddings and what have you, just for fun.
Okay, and you're kind of the Asian, I guess, story in that you're not only DJing, you have another career as well. Can you fill us in on what else you do?
Absolutely. I'm actually own a nail salon here in Northern California, in Chico.
Okay.
California.
Okay.
So Tron, I know before we started, I was telling you how I'm a fellow dance music enthusiast. So I had said, okay, guys, I want to be the one that starts the questions because,
Sure.
this dude speaks my language, I speak his. And so, I definitely wanted to start things off. The most basic question I'd like to ask is, what got you into DJing in the first place?
I think, when I was a kid growing up in Southern California, Los Angeles, I picked up dancing, mainly hip hop and things like that. And then as I got older, I eventually moved to Northern California, where I met my mentor. His name is Demetrius Jacobs, or he goes by D-Rock. And he said, "Hey, I've been dancing with you for so many years. I've been DJing for so many years. I think this is something that you can really excel at." So I came over one day, and this was back in 2011. And sat down for one session, and he was like, "Hey, you're actually not bad for being new at this." So
Nice.
kind of went on from there, and here I am now.
Very cool. again, being a big dance music enthusiast, for me, house music is life. And so, for me, house music is sort of the next generation of disco, me being a disco baby. And I believe when I was in the womb, my mom was listening to the Saturday Night Fever on repeat.
Nice.
On vinyl, of course.
Fantastic.
And so, being that as it is, I love disco, and then I love house music. And so, I'm very familiar with all the popular house DJs, some of the older ones like Danny Tenaglia, and some of the newer ones like Dimitri from Paris and Camel Fat and some of these other DJs. But I don't want to get into the minutia of all that. However, that's my thing. But more importantly, I'd like to know, obviously there's different genres of dance music, whether you're looking at house or, all the sub versions of that or trance and EDM. What genre of dance music really inspires you or resonates with you, and why?
I guess it has to start when I was younger. My brother listened to a lot of, freestyle music. So it would be stuff like Stevie B and, the Spring Love in that era.
Oh, I love that song.
I wish I could see that.
That's such a good song.
Right. So back in the day, it was like that kind of stuff that started it. And then my brother would go to raves, and I didn't know what that was back then because I was young. But I really like deep house and electro house. I think they're two different genres of music that really speak out to me as an artist. Deep house is more, for me, it's a relaxing daytime rave situation, and I'm absolutely in love with it. Drinking mimosas and hanging out by a pool kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite thing on the planet. And electro house is so much energy and vibe in a room where everyone is just kind of going nuts together, and that kind of makes me feel like I'm really playing a good show. And yeah, electro house and deep house are things that really vibe within me as an artist.
Nice.
I'm actually a big fan of deep house. I partially grew up in Prague, and that was very popular there, and also in India and Goa. But I'm wondering, as a Vietnamese who grew up in Sacramento and now lives in Sacramento, how do you use music to sort of tell your unique story?
Well, I host an event here in Sacramento. I host an event. It's called Brunch AF. We do like food, live DJs, and bottomless mimosas. Mm-hmm. So that is a thing that I use with my partner. His name is Jackson. We do a music collaboration thing together called Lies, and we play deep house, and we bring deep house DJs, and that's really the one place where I can absolutely be myself in this brunch experience, playing deep house. If you see me there, then you'll know exactly who it is that I am in the moment, and it's great.
And I have to ask, what sort of food do you have at this brunch?
It's like a more upscale brunch food. Tickets are pretty cheap, but the chef is actually really good. So they do like kind of unique twists on really fun food items. Like instead of a bread bowl, it'll be like a gravy and biscuit bowl, or
nice.
You have like a flan French toast and things like that. And it's a pretty fun menu. And who doesn't like mimosas?
Right. You're making me hungry already.
I know.
Yeah.
Right? Wow.
Oh my God, I'm so hungry now.
It's actually on Saturday.
I'm going to fly up for that.
Is it weekly? Is it or monthly? What's the frequency?
It's once a month currently.
Once a month. Okay.
We're going to start doing twice a month because it's been so busy. We need to make room for more people. So, yeah.
Yeah, but this is an amazing venue and space and event that you're describing. But how do you use it to really connect with your audience?
I think it really comes down to the music that we're making and the music that we're playing to our listeners and our fans. That it really opens up a window and a door of who we are as artists. Deep house I use primarily in the brunch setting because it's more the me being relaxed and me being able to allow people to not be so serious all the time. And that's why we do the brunch thing. And that's a big part of me, is that I've worked pretty hard up until this point to where now I really want to just mellow out and relax in these situations. And the electro house portion, the nighttime, the real dark rave type scene is when I can really let loose and show people how exciting an experience at one of my shows can be.
Tron, this piggybacks and segs to my question I want to ask. It's actually a perfect bridge. In that, we live in a time where we're so divisive and people kind of are on one side or the other. There's so little, effort to meet at a middle point or to kind of coexist. So I guess on a broader level, not just through your music, but through music in general, how is music kind of a bridge to bring people together, to tell a story, to find commonality? Where is that bridge, and kind of how do you contribute to that through your efforts?
Like, not even just through dance music. I mean, if you go to a rave or if you go to a concert and you see like-minded people who are really, really friendly. I've been to country music concerts. I love country music. Mm-hmm. I've been to raves. I've been to hip-hop shows. And when you go to these things and you get to experience, everyone leaves a little bit of themselves at these shows. So you learn how people are, you learn how people react, and you love the same things that they love. And these are complete strangers. I've kind of taken it upon myself to go to as many shows as I can because I like to feel that common ground with other people that I have no clue. Like moving here to Chico last year, where I knew nobody, and I went to 3 shows, 1 hip hop show, 1 dance music show, and 1 country music show. And I have a ton of people who are nothing like me, but we share common interests that wouldn't have existed if I didn't go to these things.
Wow, that's great. So let's expand that to you being an Asian American, and you're balancing, the Asian part of you and the American part of you. What's your story with your growing up here? Share us anything about your family, about coexisting with other people. Just give us a little background of who you are. Who is Tron La as both an American and culturally from roots in Vietnam?
My parents first moved here from Vietnam in 1980, I want to say. Mm-hmm. And Boston, Massachusetts was the first stop.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know how they got there, but yeah, that's pretty crazy.
They have
no one knows how people in Boston got to Boston.
Yeah.
Right?
That is a far drive for 1980.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. So that's when they had my oldest brother. Uh-huh. And then they eventually worked their way down. That was 1981. Mm-hmm. 1985, they were in North Carolina, in Raleigh, North Carolina. Wow. Where they had my other brother. Mm-hmm. And I guess my mom was pregnant with me in North Carolina, and they drove a 1985 Toyota Celica GT in 1989 to Los Angeles, California, to where I was born. And that is a long drive, especially if you're pregnant.
Yeah, you're transcontinental baby.
Yeah, big props to my mom for that one.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me in LA, Mom.
Exactly. I didn't have to be on the East Coast, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Growing up as an Asian American, it wasn't easy in LA. And even just being Vietnamese, in Los Angeles, the neighborhood I grew in, it was primarily a Filipino versus Vietnamese type community. And I would walk home and I would get jumped on some weekly basis. And so, of course, not really a good situation for me to be in, especially at a young age. And that's when my parents had separated, not being home so much, and a lot of iffy times back then. So eventually I moved with my mom here to Sacramento, and in a dominantly white area, Davis, California. And I would get bullied here in Sacramento as well for being smaller or always being to school on time or always getting good grades and sitting in front of class. I was the geek kind of guy. Mm-hmm. Until I would say about 9th grade, when I finally hit that growth spurt, I went from in the 3 months of summertime, I went from 4'8" to 5'6".
Oh, wow. That's a big growth.
And that is a crazy growth spurt. Yeah, that's the summer that I spent in Vietnam. And I came back. I wasn't funny looking anymore. My body was proportioned. And, people stopped picking on me. Eventually, I played hockey and golf and football. And we get to do things with my parents in Sacramento and all kinds of things. And
That's great.
I guess,
You're a true Renaissance man.
So,
yeah, I mean, sure.
Yeah.
So Tron, I wanted to ask to go back to the DJing part. I know you were saying earlier how, listeners or people that are at these events and they're dancing, and you were saying they leave a part of themselves on the floor. It sort of reminds me of a Pet Shop Boys song called "We All Feel Better in the Dark," where basically you have all people of all creeds and colors and things like that, backgrounds, who converge on this dance floor. And maybe you're playing a set of electro house where it's dark, but you could have these people that are really, like corporate type people, whereas you have people that maybe don't make a whole lot of money, but they're all kind of there together, and sort of a unifying thing. But from the flip side, from the DJ perspective, which obviously doesn't get looked at a lot of times, with your Asian roots, coming into the DJ game and being able to put that show on for all those people. Have there been any struggles, with your background and kind of breaking through into the DJ market?
Absolutely. In a dominantly white market, I don't really want to say it like that because, it's just the way the market is, I guess, but it's not really anybody's fault. It's just like the European DJs and white DJs, like they're like the main, I guess they kind of lead the race in terms of like this DJ thing. And I mean it's tough, or it was tough at first, trying to market an Asian dude, but I don't think I'm a bad looking guy. I've been in sales most of my adult life, so it's kind of easy to pitch me, and if I show up and I do a good job, then more and more contracts will come my way. And I try to not let it really affect me that way, because trying to just be one group of people, but it definitely did make that mark in the beginning. Like when people come up and my name's Tron and they'll see that I'm an Asian dude and they'll be like, oh dang, like you're not as tall as I thought you were going to be, or something like that. Like those little undertone lines during the contract writing process is always like a little tiny stab right there in the back. But
right, and you should tell them about your growth spurt though when they tell you that. You're like, hey man, come on, give me a break here.
Hey, I worked hard for this.
That's right. I went to Vietnam and everything for that.
That's right.
Right. Tron, if you remember when we first spoke, I asked you a question of, I didn't ask you where you're from. I asked you where do you identify with your roots, and you kind of chuckled at that, and because it's not a question we're normally asked, right? We're always asked, where are you from? No, really, where are you from? What do you think about that mentality? Is it something that it's wrong? Is it something that's kind of like whatever, we just got to deal with it? Do we have to? Is that a mentality that needs to be changed? Where are we with that on the scale of dealing with it versus not dealing with it?
I always answer that question pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
I get that a lot. Like, hey man, like where are you from? And like I'll know they'll want me to say something like Vietnamese or whatever,
right.
but I'm from California, and like they'll be like, oh, you know what I mean? They'll be like, no, I don't know what you mean. Then like it's rude.
Yeah,
it's rude, but
yeah.
I mean, I've been hearing it my whole life, and you kind of gotta make it funny for you,
right?
Because you've heard it for so long. And I mean, I try to think nothing of it. Back when I was younger, it was like, it was hurtful. I didn't really know how to react. I didn't have the confidence that I did today. But I just try to overlook it, not let it affect me too much, and at least try to make it funny.
Yeah, I guess humor is a great medicine, right? It helps us deal with a lot of things, right? Yeah,
it's the best medicine.
Tron, I'm very excited to actually ask you about this because I feel very strongly about animals, and I learned that you support an animal rights group and you're very active on this world, that you not just educate people on it, but you're actually, promoting this cause. I have always felt very strongly about animals, but I live in a small apartment, so it's not like I can adopt one. I travel a lot.
Right.
What is it that A, your group does, and B, what can people like me who feel strongly about animal rights do, even though we're not able to sort of do the traditional adoption of rescue animals?
Right. I'm on the board of directors for a group called All Beings Company. All Beings referred to as, all pets, all like dogs and cats and lizards and snakes and hamsters and what have you, all pets. And the cause is to allow pet owners to maintain ownership of their pets via microloans for like emergency vet bills, or maybe emergency dog or cat food or whatever kind of food your animal eats. Boarding if they have to, like if you're on the verge of being homeless or whatever, we can board your animal for so long and until you're getting back in your feet or whatever. And we don't really ask for, like, it's a microloan, so it's not really like there's no interest, but anything that we do give, we do ask that they do pay it back. And if they pay back a little extra, then that goes right back into the fund to go and help another pet owner. And that's kind of our thing.
Oh, okay.
That's really cool, man. One thing I wanted to ask, and we always ask about whatever cause you're passionate about, but how can our listeners and people that are listening to this podcast, how can they get involved in this, as well as who can they contact?
You can, honestly, you can hit me up, but my email box is always open. We do events, so even if you don't have pets or whatever, we do host events. Like we're throwing a doggy disco, which is appropriate because obviously when you have access to DJs like I do, you host fun like small raves at dog parks and people can have fun and hang out. And just being active in communities, like go to a Petco or PetSmart where they do board animals, or go to these shelters that have these animals and help them out, like buy food for them. Like they're struggling, they're all nonprofit, and it's tough for them to even like keep the lights on in these places, and they don't have owners. These pets don't have owners. They don't have that love and affection from owners. They just have the people that come in and bring them whatever food that they have available to them. So even if you don't have the means to have your own pet, and I know it's tough because pets are pretty cool, there's still means to make sure that some of these animals do get a little bit of love, and we care about everybody.
Absolutely. That's a great message. Shifting away, I do have to ask about this. So you DJ, you have this, you're a transcontinental baby, you have all these things. How did you get into the nail salon business?
My mom owns nail salons, and ever since I was a kid. So I pretty much grew up in them, from Encino, California to Davis, California to Vacaville. And my mom, she owns 2 in Vacaville, California, and 1 in Davis. So the opportunity came up in March of last year. And she said, hey, my friend is selling her salon in Chico. So I was like, oh, I've been to Chico once. I've played a show there. Should be fun. And then she was like, well, yeah, she wants to sell it. And if you want to, I can help you buy the salon. I can help you run it for the first year. And then, hand the keys over and, you just got to pay the upfront costs. And I was like, well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. So learning the business, it took me like 6 months. I've been in managerial econ pretty much my whole life, and sales my whole life. So the nail salon opportunity came up like abruptly in a time where I had just left work with the government. So I was like, sure, I'll take up this opportunity to do this. And business is booming. I'd say we're one of the top salons here in Chico. And
very cool.
We don't really have much competition.
So you have perfectly manicured nails while you're scratching and mixing, playing your
Absolutely.
Sets. That's pretty awesome.
It really does help having like cut nails and stuff, because scratching on vinyl can get like a little rough if you have longer nails.
You know what?
I get my nails cut off.
What I'd love is a doggy disco at a nail salon where you're listening to deep house and having amazing brunch. Can we please set that up in the near future? I will be there in a moment.
That would be great.
Yeah, but I have to ask, as I mentioned earlier today, I was getting waxed by a person of Vietnamese origin. But does the nail salon culture really empower Vietnamese women? And I'm talking about Vietnamese women specifically because they seem to be quite predominant in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. You get a particular type of person, a particular type of clientele who comes in and, they want to be open. They want to be themselves when they come to these salons. And Vietnamese women are perfect for that because they share, Vietnamese women in general women in general, I would say in today's culture and even the culture back home is male dominant. And so you have two sides of the same coin from different countries all in the same direction. So when you get like a white lady will come in and she'll get a Vietnamese lady, you guys have a mild understanding of how things work in respective families. And also Vietnamese women also do each other's nails all the time, and they also like to feel pretty, just like our clientele does. And it's really nice in that sense because I hire all women and I have 3 dudes that work for me. And the women knock it out the park every time. They're so much better, and I can't tell why.
Another thing we're bad at.
Right. All right, Tron.
All right.
Tron, hardest question of the thing. You have to think really hard about this one, okay? Where can we find you? How do we get in touch with you?
And how do we develop the doggy, the doggy DJ brunch nail salon? Because we
with
really
waffle-flavored milk bone treats.
Right.
and deep house.
Yeah. So Twitter, Facebook, email, if you could share any of that.
My email for the doggy All Beings company is lawtron@allbeings.co. And I'll send you guys a link and stuff. And then Instagram is Tokio Rocks. Facebook is Tokio Rocks. You guys can find me, add me up.
And that's Tokio.
I'm available pretty much 24/7.
And that's Tokio with an I, right? Tokio with an I.
Yeah, Tokio with an I. TOKIO ROCKS.
Okay. And do you mind spelling your name?
My name?
Yeah, just spell it just so no one has any confusion. Yeah.
Sure. Tron, Tron. Last name, La L.
Excellent. Okay. Well, anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, I mean, I just want people to do better. It's a sticky situation out here for everybody here in the States, and we have a lot of questions that aren't being answered, and I just want everyone to do their part and just try a little harder to make the world a little better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all your great input. We really enjoyed talking to you. Before we let you go, we're gonna give our own little sign-offs for where we could find us individually and for AH1. Well, obviously, you could find Asian Highway 1 on Facebook, and you could find us on Twitter as well. Our email is asian.highway.live@gmail.com. You could find us at Asian Highway 1 on Facebook. You can like us there. Follow us on Twitter. The handle is AH1 Live. And we're also on Instagram. It's also there, same AH1 Live, same handle. And you also want to give us where they could find the podcast.
Absolutely. So you can definitely subscribe. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Google Play Music, on Spotify. For those of us who use Pocket Cast, you can definitely search for us through there. And so we're sort of ubiquitous. So thank you.
And I'd also highly recommend to our listeners that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter, because we put up articles as well on a regular, almost daily basis that are related to our community and the Asian American community at large. So. And
our next episode, just as a reminder, will be featuring film composer Amrita Vaz, who is a great story. She's of Indian origin by way of Canada, now here in Hollywood, and she's making great waves with her music. So we'll talk to her next week. Until then, obviously, tune into us on every world we've mentioned. I want to give a special thanks to Visual Communications and to Marvin Yue for all their efforts in supporting us. And again, thank you to Tron Law for talking to us from Northern California. Also, big thanks to Rachel for being our in-staff, our in-house photographer. Thank you for being great about photos. We were having fun while we're not talking. So with that, thank you so much for tuning in.
And be good, y'all.
All right, peace.